Welcome back, boys and girls. Today we're going to be talking about Writer. It is finally free, so if you've been stuck using Visual Studio or Visual Studio Code, you can take that shit and put it straight in the bin. Today I'm going to be showing you 7 things you should definitely must know about Writer if you want to get started. Some of the things that you probably had in Visual Studio Code that you want to be using in Writer, and some of my personal favorites, right? So don't forget, if you're enjoying the video, leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section, and don't forget to check out the description. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. So if you first boot up Writer, this is potentially what it could look like. I have a random solution open here. It doesn't really matter what it is, but what we want to do is perhaps first clean it up, right? So usually I don't record videos like this. So for me, the recording looks something like that. So the real estate for code is like a quarter of my screen. This is horrible. So I just want to get rid of all of the stuff that I'm not looking at, right? When I'm programming, I don't need to see like 90% of what's here, right? For this, you would go up here and you would click on view and you would check out appearance. And in here, you can basically toggle things to display or not to display, all right? So for example, removing things like toolbar, that thing goes away. Again, just keep on clicking. Tool window bars, those things go away. So let's just keep going. Status bar, that thing goes away. These goddamn breadcrumbs don't show. And there we go. So everything is looking a little bit better now. If you do remove all of these things, you will obviously need to know your keybinds. And well, I know my keybinds, so I don't have a problem, right? I've gone ahead and learned them. And for example, this thing right here, right? So most of the time what you can do is you can just right click and configure sticky lines, and you will be taken to the option. Same as here, like, do I want these line numbers over here, right? You can remove them. I actually like my line numbers. So where is this? Line numbers, right? So that's how you can configure your Writer to look a little bit more minimalistic, as I have it here. Let's make this a little bit smaller. And then the next big thing that you should be using is navigation. So if you've been using Visual Studio, the keybind was probably Control-T. Here, what I'm going to say is when you're using navigation, just press Shift, and you're going to have all of your things that you can select. Any ID commands like copy text will be in here. So for example, if I type in copy, this is a command that I can perform on text and I can see the keybind right next to it, right? If I want to go to settings, it will be this menu here, and this is going to open settings, right? So as you can basically use this menu to explore the ID itself as well as your files. So if I want app settings.json, it's going to open it. Okay, so this is pressing Shift. For example, things like classes is Command N for me, Command Shift N files, symbols, right? So you will get familiar with these things eventually. But for example, if I want to search for handler, this is what I can find, right? Now the next feature that I want to show you is probably Writer's most killer feature. And I think every single time I talk about Writer, I mention this. And if you've seen my Writer videos before, you're probably like, it's going to be this local history again. It is so amazing. I remember the first time I touched Writer, the first time I saw this feature, it was revolutionary, right? So you have your files, you're probably already using Git, and you can, switch branches, etc., reset. But what Writer has is built-in history. So as you're working with a file, separate from Git, you get local history. So if you right click on any file, you will click on local history and show history, and you're going to be able to see the history of a file. So for example, I think I've been meddling with this file. I can't remember exactly. And then I've reset my Git changes, right? So yeah, I did some changes here, and this menu is going to look exactly like the Git changes menu. So this is the changes that I had. Let me just go bring them in because I'm going to need them for a demo. But yeah, the changes are now applied over here. And that's really it. So if you've ever been in a file, or let's say in a folder, where I'm now clicking on a project and I want to show local history, I can see the changes in many different files, okay? So it's not just per file, you can full on just select folders and see what has changed in those folders across some snapshots of time, okay? The year is 2024, and I'm pretty sure that most of the developers, even .NET developers, are still using JavaScript. And I personally am using JavaScript as well. I don't like Blazor, I don't use it. So if you're going to be developing with JavaScript and Writer and alongside your C# ASP.NET Core project, you're going to want to know this one. So here, as an example, I have a solution and I have an Angular client here. So for example, if I want to find app.whatever, one of the components, I can go ahead and search for this TypeScript file. So if I switch my Explorer view to file system, because the client is contained within the project, it's all fine. I know some people have different folder structures, and potentially what could happen is the client is contained on the outside. Now, when I was trying to rehearse this demo, didn't actually let me move the client outside this folder, right? So no problem. I'm a programmer. So by the way, if you're wondering how I open this terminal, right, I can open it at any location. And for example, open in terminal, wherever you bind, wherever you can, wherever it's gonna know what keybind it is, it's gonna show you. So watch for keybinds, learn the keybinds, and you're gonna be good. So anyway, let me just go ahead and quickly move this client to a client folder here. Okay, so the client folder is moved. You're gonna see on the right hand side here, it's gonna say no index. That means it's no longer indexing this stuff. So for example, if I start typing in app, I no longer see my what's it called, app component. Okay, and if I switch to solution view, the client's nowhere to be found. So if you go back to file system, you right click on the client and you go to tools, attach to solution. Now it's attached to solution, and again, it's almost the same as if it would be inside your solution, inside one of the project folders, but now it's just kind of like outside, but still inside, if that makes sense. Okay, so anyway, it's indexed now, and you can do your app dot, and well, you can effectively do everything that you could before. Okay, all IntelliJ IDs have the same Git integration, and it is pretty amazing. So let's have a look at this. Whenever you're working on a different branch and you're submitting a pull request, you can see all of the comments. I think Visual Studio Code and the Visual Studio have something similar, but some people like this, some people don't. You can remove these comments if you don't want them. You can show them up again. I am more interested in showing let's say the firepower of right-clicking, going to Git, and maybe annotating with git blame when these changes happen. You can close these annotations, or maybe going to the history of the full file. Okay, so you can do that. Let's collapse this, and if I go to the all and I look for Git, for me it's Command G, which brings up this main Git menu. So on here, you're going to see all of your local branches for this repository, all of your remote branches for the repository. And this is the coolest thing here. So let's say here I am on this new feature new branch, and I have this file over here. These are the things that I've changed. I can revert the selected changes. Okay. And here they are in the change list. I realize I'm working with like a minuscule real estate and you can't see anything as well as I can't see anything. So anyway, here are all of the changes, right? And usually it would be zoomed out pretty well for me, right? And well, this would be hidden, so I would be able to see everything. But oh well, we're demoing features over here. So you can see the things that change. You can revert them individually. Let's roll this back. So we want to roll back the rollback. And one of the coolest things, when you go on GitHub and you open a pull request, you can see all of the changes. So I don't think I've ever used this in any other program where I want to see all of the changes on this branch, right? So I'm on the new branch. I have the master branch over here. I can show diff with working tree. And over here, I will be able to see all of the things that have changed. So you can see stuff has moved around. Here are the build extensions, and you can see here the stuff that has changed. All right, so you can effectively get the equivalent of a pull request, so you can review your own code locally and not on GitHub, right? So that's really, really cool. That feature I just showed you is probably, I mean, my best thing since sliced bread, well, what I discovered recently. Otherwise, this thing, you can filter by whatever branches, users, who did what, so you can blame them for the bugs, when, and which places. This is like, this Git integration is so good you can do anything. Make sure you have a go at it. So for example, here, after I moved the client, I want to, go back to the master branch. This branch, I no longer care about it. I'll just delete it, okay? And that will be the end of that. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you is debugging power of Writer. I think it's about the same as Visual Studio. I remember the first time I switched, because the UI is different, it was a little bit uncomfortable to get used to, but trust me, it is just as good as Visual Studio. Visual Studio has pretty good debugging, and Writer does as well. So what you can do is, when you have your project, you can run it, and you can run it in debugger straight away. You can run it in debugger with profiling. What I want to show you is how I usually run this. So I'll just have my terminal, I'll .NET run, and what I will do is I will attach the process. Okay, so as the application is running, I can attach my debugger. Things will slow down a little bit. I will debug, and then I'll detach it, and I'll keep going, right? So, and the application will speed up. So I have that option of attaching and detaching. Let's go ahead and quickly attach, and I'll just show you a cool little trick. So why am I searching for account? I think it's called app Angular. It's actually called Angular. There we go. My memory is not failing me yet. Okay, so you have your CPU memory monitoring. I'm gonna disregard that. I'm just gonna put that to the side. This is the menu that you should be the most interested in. I'm gonna go to the project endpoints and just add user to project. Let's go to get. Okay, I'm gonna put a breakpoint over here. Let's come back to here, and I think I'll just refresh, and that should fetch it like heck it will. And go to list. Okay, so list is what I wanted. All right, let me give this a refresh. Loads. There we go. So first and foremost, so this will be the call stack. So if you have multiple function calls, and I should have probably demonstrated this here, but whatever variables are captured here, and let me actually demonstrate this. So I'll just move magic, cut the video here. So I'm back here at the debugger. I have the do function, and I have the console write line, and I have a breakpoint here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and refresh this again, and I'm gonna hit this breakpoint. So remove that. So here you will see the call stack effectively. So if I'm on do, I can see the a variable over here, but if I want to say I've gone down into this function, I forgot, the previous function call, what variables it had there at the point of calling, no problem. All right, I can still see the user, and all of the whole call stack is like a snapshot in time effectively. So you can go up and down the function call stack effectively. Okay, so anyway, that's cool. Not the coolest thing that I wanted to show you. So for example, if I get over here, you have these variables. So for example, the evaluation window, you can go to user claims, enter, and it's going to evaluate your results over here. This is present in Visual Studio. The reason I want to show you here is because it's quite a powerful feature. It's not unique to Writer. What you can do with the immediate window is, you have some data in your function and you want to extrapolate something. You just go ahead, write a little bit of C# in this window, and it just evaluates it, and you get your data. Other cool things you can do with it is, for example, everybody works with Entity Framework Core. You have a query over here. Whoa, I don't want to move it. You have a query over here which is misbehaving, and you want to know which what SQL it has generated. You have disabled the logs because it was spamming. You don't want to go back and enable the logs. Anyway, you're debugging. You're here. Stop. What you want to do is you just want to go up to here to the DB context, grab the query up to where, just take it over here, enter, and that is going to produce your result where you can then go into the debug view and you can take a look at the query. I do this all the time. It's perfect, right? You can also do other things in here. So for example, I don't know, like user ID. add to watches, even though that it is still here, you can effectively add anything you want in here, right? So something like this, we'll view it. Here's the new result. Okay, nothing new. Just understand that if you've been a debug ninja in Visual Studio, you can be a debug Jedi in Writer, right? And if you've been attempting to debug in VS Code, don't worry, debugging will actually work now. All right. Everybody these days uses databases, and Writer has a really good database integration. It is so good that I remember when I had another engineer, and he asked me, dude, can you help me connect to a database? And it was using Visual Studio. I was like, yeah, no problem. I remember you have to go to some SQL menu and or whatever, SQL Explorer. And he wanted to connect to PostgreSQL, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like you had to set up some additional jar file, whatever, download some driver widget, and we couldn't get it. I was like, dude, just download Writer. It was easier to download Writer than set it up in Visual Studio. So let's go ahead and see what this story is like in Writer. So I remember my keybind for the database menu, and again, if I want to open up databases, there it is. So test container, I don't know if it's the test container that I want to connect to, but I want to connect to PostgreSQL. So let's go ahead and connect to PostgreSQL. And again, all of my menus are of appropriate size. And you will see that, actually, I don't know where it's grabbing this connection string from, whether it's just reading out of the app settings, but that's exactly the connection string that I want. Okay. So there it is, PostgreSQL. Here's the connection string. If you want to do it a little bit more of a manual setup, you can do it here, right? But that was pretty much all I wanted. Let's connect to database, and there it is. Can't get any more easier than this. You just bam, bam, and you're there. So let's take a look at some of the tables. We got the users. Let me take a look at some of these projects over here. So new console query, same as any other, what's it called? I guess select all from projects, integration, auto completion works. You can actually do, let's go to tasks. One of the nicest things I've seen is clean dog, and you can just go ahead and boom, update whatever you've edited here. Now, if you know that PostgreSQL can store JSON, the JSON editor in here, I can vouch for it. It is really good. Don't know if I need to say anymore. Probably you can figure out from these buttons what they're doing, how to connect to places. You can refresh, you can take a look at the tables, schemas that you want to connect to, etc. Okay, just understand that connecting to a database, super easy. Working with that database is going to be a breeze. So for the next feature, I've stopped Angular and the client application. Hopefully when I was running my query, you could have seen this services window. So similar to how Git integrates with Writer, where you don't need to go to a browser to do things. Everything pops in Writer here as well. Database, you don't need like dbbeaver or pgadmin or whatever the applications are. It's in Writer. The applications, I remember running multiple solutions was a pain in the ass. So for example, if I want to more debug, modify run configuration, I can do that, or run multiple projects. You would be able to select multiple projects, and the actual button that I am looking for, it's going to be run triple dot. I'm going to edit configurations, and I am going to not do that, but rather create a, where is it? Compound one, right? So the compound one, you can add all of your other ones. So for example, the Angular, and what is it else? I have a Node.js project, right? So Node.js? No, it's just npm or Angular, right? So package.json, run, script, start. I think that's it. So I'm gonna again go to compound, unnamed, get my start configuration, and now I've configured what's it called, a .NET application to run with a JavaScript application. And if you have any other language, you can probably download a plugin which is going to enable a run configuration, or I'm pretty sure they're going to have some something generic that you can specify over here, right? I'm not going to look for it right now. But for example, here is an let's say all of it. All right, apply, run. So as these things start up, they should, all right, yeah, there we go. So a window like this should pop up. So services is convenient for viewing results of multiple run configurations. So yeah, let's go ahead and view it. So here you will now have all of your run configurations. You saw me accidentally create this new folder, but there it is. So all of your run configurations are going to be here. If you have started your npm or the .NET application, it's going to be here. You can go ahead and stop it from here, run it or debug it, but this is effectively your controls, right? So you no longer have to go to the project and you know, fiddle with it here. All of the things that you're currently using for your development, you're gonna have these services, and you can just, like, you know, turn this on, turn this off, turn this on, right? Stuff like that. So for example, Docker connections. Do I already have Docker installed? Can I do Docker run Redis? There we go. So that's initialized, and now in here I should be able to see, well, my Redis container, and it's running, right? So there we go. Let me go ahead and stop this container, and that should release my terminal as well. Okay, so just understand the services window is available, and you can sit here like a boss in front of the control panel, you know, managing your projects. And that was it for the 7 things that you should know about Writer. What the heck did I talk about? Let me take a look at my list. So I talked about appearance, navigation, local history, adding your JavaScript project to your solution. So, you know, it's not dangling over there on the side, and you don't have to open a second IDE that can actually edit JavaScript files. So, you know, when you I remember I was using Visual Studio and tried to add a JavaScript file, and it's like Visual Studio wouldn't work. So you have to have Visual Studio and VS Code side by side. Writer, none of that anymore. Talked about the Git integration, debugging experience, connecting to a everybody needs to connect to a database, and the last one is the services window, and effectively having this wonderful service integration. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to check out the description. I will leave a link to download Writer in there. A big and special thank you goes out to all of my Patreon supporters. You help me make these videos. If you would like the source code for this video as well as my previous videos, go support me on Patreon. Even though this video didn't have any new code, this code that I'm using here is, you know, already in the repository. So if you want it, go ahead and support me on Patreon. Again, thank you for watching. Have a good day.